beautiful day again here in Sunshine, Florida, and it's also a beautiful day on the other side of the world. We have a guest today, a special guest. Her name, I'm not going to introduce her, I'll let her introduce herself. Her name is Greta Konstantine. All I know is that she was born and raised in Bulgaria and moved to Denmark, where she succeeded, and she's currently a speaker and a coach. Why don't we go ahead and let her tell us a little bit more about herself? Go ahead, Greta.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you to Mona to have me here. I'm really honored to have this opportunity and to connect with her. P.S. All our conversations have been super nice. And about me, hi, my name is Greta Konstantine. I'm 29 years old. I am originally from Bulgaria. I moved to Denmark when I was 23. So I have been in Denmark for the last 6 years of my life. And originally I left Bulgaria because, well, it was kind of my destiny because both my mom and my dad, they had an idea for me that I'll go study abroad and, like just move from Bulgaria and discover more possibilities or something that's going to be better for me. And that's kind of how things went down without me even realizing it. I mean, there was always this idea that I'm going to go study abroad, but when it became reality, it became reality and everything changed. And I moved to Denmark because, well, honestly, it was pretty like chance and fate because in Bulgaria, I had bachelor degree in entrepreneurship and innovation. So I wanted to continue study that because that's a passion of mine. And there were only 3 countries in whole Europe that at that time had an entrepreneurial program for a master's in science degree. So
Uh-huh.
I kind of missed all the other deadlines except Denmark. I applied for Denmark and they accepted me and I was like, yes, that's so awesome. So then I left everything behind and that was scary, but it was also challenging. And honestly, I don't regret for a second. For a second, I don't regret it that I've taken the decision to move from Bulgaria to Denmark. I'm so
Okay.
grateful for what I have been able to do here and the people I've met, and everything is just so worth it.
Well, I am glad to hear that. Our hope from this program is to get people closer to cultures that they may not be aware of. You know how we have already talked about it. The world is so globalized and so connected today. And having that cultural intelligence factor is a must, not just added bonus, but it's a must. It's more than your IQ, your resume, your technical skills. If you cannot work with others are different than you, culturally different than you will be struggling. And if you are a leader and you are a supervisor or building up teams, and you don't have that skill, it is a problem. So now we are going to take people back and forth between Bulgaria and Denmark because as I understand, these are both European countries, but at the same time, there is huge difference. It's like night and day, both in communication, leadership, lifestyle, thoughts, philosophies, so on and so forth. So let's take our audience, our listeners, let's start from Bulgaria. We want to know a little bit about the culture, communication styles, if there are several, and the demographics, the makeup of the Bulgarian society. If also, while you are speaking, we would love to know how can we approach a Bulgarian and how can we be successful in not only creating a personal relationship, nurturing a relationship, but also how can we earn their business? We are going to start from Bulgaria.
All right. So let's start with the cultural identity.
Yes.
Bulgaria has a great cultural inheritance, and the culture is very warm. It's very welcoming. I think that I have been through to a lot of countries in the world, and I honestly think that Bulgarian culture is one of the most welcoming and most warm cultures in the world. Um, we are just like, you know, we accept people with open arms, and if there's someone new, you'll invite them, you'll have dinner with them, you'll have a drink with them. Everything will be very personally social.
Mm-hmm.
When you are meeting someone new, especially if this person is coming from another country, because I mean, let's face it, there are not so many internationals in Bulgaria, and I'm not sure exactly what's the reason, but there are more there are many internationals in Denmark, much more than in Bulgaria. So from that perspective, Bulgarian culture is also very curious towards what's new and very welcoming, as I said already. And
Uh-huh.
the way of interacting with people is very it is straightforward, but it's also casual. People in Bulgaria are not so restrained to be very stiff in their behavior, if that metaphor makes sense. So for example, when you communicate in business or in your personal life, there's a
Uh-huh.
casual conversation going around. And I think that the business tips for Bulgaria, they're different as it depending on what's the business that you want to do, right? If it's a business that it's um, very classic by definition, for example, finances, you know, banking, accounting, something like that, then the communication, of course, is going to be much more strict. But if you are making a business that is, for example, related to helping people, giving them a hand, you know, doing some social work, that's going to be much more hands-on and much more open in communication with people. Um,
Okay.
I would say that Bulgarians are very proud that we are Bulgarians, and even if we have moved away from our country, we do hold it dearly, and we do love it. And there's so many things you can experience when you go to Bulgaria. You know, from everything from drinks and food to the 3,000 caves that we have, and so much nature, so much culture. It's just so rich. There's so much to see. Even I haven't seen it all, and I'm a Bulgarian. I lived there for 23 years. So
Yes.
I would say that it's an amazing experience to go there and just let yourself be welcomed and let yourself be um, taken care of. In Bulgaria, there's actually, you know, there's a person who's the host, and they will give you everything. Like I remember, for example, when you know, my grandparents, every time you empty your plate, there's like a new thing coming up, because they just want you to have the best possible time. And that applies for many other first interactions as well. We are very open and easygoing. It's interesting. It's very
Okay.
different from Danish culture.
Yes. Let's go back. Let's go back to one aspect, and that is, uh, we all hold our cultures dear to us. Anywhere you go, anywhere in the world, you ask someone about their culture, they hold it very dear, and they will tell you they are the most wonderful people. And I have no doubt about that, that everyone is wonderful once we get to know them. Now, let me ask you this. Maybe it will be easier to answer this question, and that is, as far as the culture, is it direct or indirect as far as communication? Is it confrontational or more of, you know what, let me save um, the face and let me not say anything? That's number one. As far as dealing in business, is it a short term or long term? Like, for example, in here in the United States, people make decisions very quick, and they don't sit and think about the long term effect of that decision. It's mostly, most of the transaction, most of the dealing is pretty much, okay, I want it now, and I am not going to sit for days and weeks and months to think about the long-term effect of it. Is that the same way in Bulgaria or not?
Honestly, I don't have a general observation on this topic, because I do think that it also depends on the person and what's their values and beliefs and how they want to move with their own pace. However, from the the people I have interacted with, the impression that I have is that um, there is a need for space for evaluation, right?
Uh,
Not everybody that I have met that have their businesses in Bulgaria, they'll be just like, okay, poof, that's a great opportunity. Let's just go in and do it. Like, that's not really how it works,
uh-huh.
because there are things that need to be considered. However, once again, I'm saying this is not on 100%, and that's just my personal experience. And I do think that that depends on the personality of the person. How do they approach their
Uh-huh.
their business meetings and decisions?
Okay.
And
So,
as to the culture, to the communication style, I would say that it is direct and open. However, okay, so Bulgarian people can be a little more expressive in their emotion and their enthusiasm than other cultures are. For
cultures.
example, Scandinavian cultures are more reserved. Not that they're not happy or anything, that's just,
Yes.
the way of expression that they have. So I would say that Bulgaria, it's a people are very passionate, and people are not really afraid to express what they think and what they believe in. So I would say if someone comes and just starts talking to you loudly or enthusiastically, don't get intimidated by the volume of the conversation and the height of the tone. Like, listen to what they're saying and look at how they're just gesticulating, and what's the general overview. Because sometimes, for example, that's a personal example, when my mom comes to visit, my boyfriend is Danish, and like my mom's also Bulgarian. So sometimes when me and my mom talk in Bulgarian, he would think that we'll fight and we argue, while in fact we're just laughing and we're just talking something fun, right? So that's a direct example of how it can be misunderstood. So always have an additional factor, not only the height of the voice or the behavior, just a wholesome experience of what feeling you get from the person.
So pretty much they're like Italians, Greeks, the Mediterranean style
Yeah,
societies where they use a lot of emotions, hand gestures, voice, all that. They're not fighting, they're not angry. It's just the way
yeah,
it is.
exactly,
Just
exactly.
expect that. Now
Yeah.
let's move from Bulgaria and take people to Denmark. Now, as you, young lady, live in Bulgaria and get into Denmark, first of all, what did you think about Denmark before you moved there? What idea did you have?
Nothing. Honestly, I didn't know anything about Denmark. I mean, I knew that there's a country, and that's where Vikings come from, the general
Uh-huh.
historical knowledge and reputation. However,
Uh-huh.
I had no idea about what the culture is, what are the values that people have, how do they behave, like what's the general environment, how do they communicate. I didn't know anything, and I had to learn that over time.
So you moved to Denmark and your first impression.
Flat. I'm not even joking. Like, Bulgaria has so many mountains, so every time you look in the distance, you see some kind of a shape in the distance. And we drove to Denmark. So my dad, me, we took a road trip. So we traveled from Bulgaria to Denmark with the car and all my luggage. And I remember, I'll never forget this. When I entered Denmark, I was like, oh my God, it's so flat. Where are all the mountains? It looks so surreal because I've never seen such a flat landscape. However, it's very
Oh,
beautiful in its own way. But that was literally my first impression of Denmark, just driving in the country and seeing how different it looks already, the environment.
so here is the first a shocker that's landscaping, and there are no mountains. So what's next? Now you're getting to Dharma. You are settling yourself. You are starting to meet people, Danish people. Talk to
Okay.
me about that.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the first experience I had with a random Danish person on the street the first
Uh-huh.
day I got in Denmark. Okay. So because I came for university, then you can rent an apartment through the university, and then you have to go pick up your keys from one place. However, I didn't know where that place was, and it was just very confusing, like the organization of the city for me. So I just decided to to just approach some random person and you know, ask them like, excuse me, do you know where I can find this building and blah blah blah. And there was this gentleman, and he just smiled at me. He was like, oh yeah, I totally know where that is, come with me, I'm walking the same way. And he just started walking with me, you know, we were talking, we were chatting. It was so different than Bulgaria, because in Bulgaria, people, just in Denmark, people walk around and they smile. Every time I pass a person on the street, I smile at them and they smile back, and that's not weird or creepy or anything. It's actually a polite thing to do, because you are seeing a person there, right? So it makes sense that it's nice for you to recognize that person, right? Instead of just like, I don't want to look at you and, you know, keep moving forward. And that was so great. It's just when you walk on the, when I walk in the streets here, especially in the first year, I was just always in a good mood because everybody was smiling, you know, everybody was so helpful and so friendly just by walking on the street. It was amazing impression,
So
honestly.
now here's a cultural difference that I am noticing. In Bulgaria, don't go around town smiling because they are going to think you're crazy. And in Bulgaria, you have to be smiling all the time. That's the natural thing to do, and that's the norm. Is acceptable. There's nothing weird about it. Nothing creepy. Everyone smiles. Next thing.
I just want to put a little disclaimer. I don't think that if you go around in Bulgaria and smile, people are going to think you're a creep. However, it's not the norm. You know, like
It's
you
not
don't
the
just
norm.
go around and you're like, hi, hi, hi. You know, that's not what you do. But in Denmark, it's something natural. So, I mean,
Oh,
it's not, you know, like in Bulgaria, it's not negative that you cannot smile. It's just different. They're just nice in different way.
yes, yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. Um, Being from Morocco is the same way. You can, I mean, you can smile, you can say hello and everything, but it's just not something that people do all the time if they don't know you. If you live in a neighborhood, if you live in an area where obviously people are interacting every single day, yes, and it becomes a norm. But out on the street that you just walk in and going by your day, you just don't walk around smiling at everybody because it's never ended a
I mean,
story.
like, who's that creep?
Yeah, it doesn't mean they're not warm people. They're the warmest people, very welcoming culture and hospitable.
Yeah.
But it's just the way it is. Now, beside smiling, what's the next thing you noticed?
To being different, or that made
Yeah,
impression on me? Okay.
I want things that you had experienced or are different. We're getting to the culture aspect of it, the communication and leadership style. I'm sure that whether in university, at a workplace, anywhere you go, you are noticing certain leadership styles. So we want to know about that, hopefully, to help people if they are planning to go to Denmark or build business relationship with Danish people. They are way informed and prepared for that encounter, for that relationship, for that experience. So the communication. So
Okay.
now, smiling, next thing.
Okay, next thing, then I would like to mention language.
Yes.
So Danish language, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. Danish language is difficult because
Yes.
of technical difficulty.
Yes.
Danish language is difficult because it's very different from everything else, and pretty much it just resembles other Scandinavian languages that don't necessarily have anything to do with other groups of languages. So another thing that made a huge impression on me is that everybody in Denmark speaks English. They speak it to a level where, you know, they can just listen to music, watch videos, you know, movies. There's no problem for them. So they
Yes.
speak good English. And when I say everybody, I mean, I have even talked to like an 80-year-old person who had perfect English, right? Like, for example, from Bulgaria, coming from Bulgaria, that was a little surprising for me, but that's because Bulgaria has a history also with the Russian countries, back in the days, they helped
Yes.
us get free and so on. So in the school system in Bulgaria, for quite a while, it was more popular to study, the Russian language rather than
Yes.
the English language. So from that perspective, English came a little bit too late to Bulgaria, and maybe one generation younger started speaking English. So it was very surprising for me to just talk to this like 80-year-old grandpa that spoke perfect English just out of nowhere. That was very impressive to me. And I do want to say that when it comes to building relationships with Danish people, regardless if it's business or, personal, intimate, whatever, it
Uh-huh.
just makes a good impression to them when you can say something in their language. And I think that's very logical because, of course, like if someone foreigner comes to Bulgaria and they learn how to say some stuff in Bulgarian, I'll also be very impressed because that's also a very difficult language, right? And it's a way of kind of appreciating the culture of the other person. So
Uh-huh.
it took me several years to learn Danish to the level that I'll feel comfortable just verbalizing and speaking. Um,
Uh-huh.
I got there. However,
Uh-huh.
you don't have to be perfect for you to mention something in Danish. You can say thank you, which is tak. You can say hi, which is hi. You can say small things that will make a good impression because that shows that you're respectful. And I think that makes sense in any culture, right? If someone comes from somewhere else and they go to your country and they learn to say,
Yes.
hi, how are you in your own language, that's very impressive. That is
Yes.
very positive impression. Uh, so either learn Danish or learn to say some small things like hi, thank you, how are you? Some cute things that just leave them with the notion that you've put efforts. There
Yes.
are a lot of people in Denmark who come and go and they don't get to learn the language, or they stay longer and they didn't have the opportunity, or they decided not to learn the language, whatever. And that is something that's not going to necessarily work in your favor.
Yes.
First of all, even though all people speak, or I mean, when I say all, maybe there's some that don't, but let's say 90% Danish people
Yes.
speak
Uh-huh.
some level of English, right?
Okay.
And I think, for example, if you come to Denmark and you want to work, you will need to know Danish, even if you're working in a company which company's official language for communication is English, because the chances are that you're still going to communicate with Danish people, right? So you still need to be able to blend in that perspective. They're not um, I remember I was very afraid in the beginning, and what held me back was I was afraid how I'm sounding in Danish because it's so unnatural and so different from my own language. And
Uh-huh.
that held me back quite a while, but I have to say that even if I mispronounce something, or I, organize the sentence differently, people are never like, ha ha ha, you failed, or like, you did it.
Not judgmental and
Yeah, they're not
classify. Okay.
judgmental. They accept that you're trying to learn, and that means to them much more than not being able to even say thank you, in their own
Yes.
language.
So the question here, if we want to basically, if we want to get ahead in Denmark, if we are obviously moving there and building a life there, it's recommendable to
Oh yeah,
learn
definitely.
the Danish language. Even if you're going there as a tourist, it will be helpful if you can at least say a few words
Yeah,
out of
exactly.
respect to the country that is receiving you.
Yeah.
So we move to obviously next um, general culture. As far as communication, like for example, if I am, and by the way, my CPA for all my international clients, she's from Denmark,
Okay.
and very nice lady. You may, when you're talking to her, you may not get any emotions. Basically, she just listens. You don't know whether she's liking what you're saying, whether she's disapproving. Let's say I am going to speak, and there is a room full of people. What should I expect? is there an engagement with the people, or they're more of, all right, well, we are going to sit and listen until the end, and we'll clap, and that's pretty much about it. Is there, can you feel the engagement?
Yes, but I would also say that most of the events that I have been to where there has been a mixed audience, Danish and internationals, and whatever the event has been, I think that as long as you leave space for people to ask their questions, they will ask them. Right? I mean, they're not shy people.
Uh-huh.
There is, I agree with what you say. Sometimes it's hard to know if they're agreeing or disagreeing, or they're happy, if they're not happy. But I think that's just the way they are in their culture, and that's just the way they behave. I would say that they're very diplomatic people. They're not pot stirrers, if I can say that. Um, they're very diplomatic, and they will always try to be polite.
Uh-huh.
They will try not to offend you, right? So it's also important that you behave the same way with them, because
Uh-huh.
they are very respectful. And actually, something that I had in my notes to mention for our talk was something that I find extremely mind-blowing that they have in Denmark. There's something that's called Janteloven, and that is basically a law that ensures that people don't behave like douchebags. I mean, that's my
Oh,
understanding of
wow.
it. So basically, what this law says is that regardless of your achievements, find materialistic, non-materialistic, whatever, you do not have the right and the power to treat others as less than you.
Wow, that is
So
very impressive.
so another thing that I was actually, when we talked the first time, and that was like the first thing that popped in my head, because if you come to Denmark and you start beating yourself in the chest, oh, look at me, I've done this, oh, look at me, I've achieved that,
Yeah.
that's a no-go. Like, that's not gonna fly, just because that's so far from their culture. Their culture is about equality,
Yeah.
being equal, be like, everybody has the rights that give them the best opportunities they can get. Everybody is taken care of in a way, and I love this about it. Like, I think I don't know if it exists in other countries, but for me, that's like the most awesome law ever, because it basically tells you, can you just please be a decent human being regardless of your successes?
Yes, that's
That's
very
amazing.
interesting. So I am trying to understand and help others understand as well. There is this feeling of equality, but at the same time, we can call it a collectivism, okay? Collectivism, but there is no hierarchy. Like, for example, in some of the Asian cultures, there is so much hierarchy. In other words, I am the boss, and there is a protocol that I follow in my communication style, leadership, and everything. That you, if you are at the bottom, you have to behave certain way, and I will behave certain way. So what you're saying, that's in Denmark, that is not the case. There is that equality, there is that collectivism, and if you achieve success, if you are the boss, the whoever, the owner, it does not entitle you to treat others any different than the way you would treat yourself or anyone within your status or your sphere. Is that what you're saying? So there is a law that prohibits that.
I actually don't know if it's a law in their constitution, but it's definitely a law that exists. Like, it's from the old days. And if you go to Google or YouTube and write things about Denmark I need to know, 90% of what you find out is going to include this antelope, because it's so extraordinary. I do want to add something onto what
Yeah.
you mentioned about the work and the hierarchy, and I think that there is levels while you're working. Obviously, you have a boss, or you're the boss, and there are employees, and they have different levels of responsibility. So the levels of responsibility are there, right? I mean, everybody knows their task. The boss do boss stuff, the employee do employee stuff.
Yes.
However, when it comes to how you personally treat a person, you know, the being that you're communicating with, it's always strive to be with equality, and you can talk to your boss as a normal person, you know, like for
So,
example, if you were my boss and I was your employee, we would have been able to talk just as we talk right now, like we're equals, right? It doesn't matter who takes the executive decisions and who does the tasks. So the Yent
so you can
alone
disagree.
is
Yeah.
very focused on the how you communicate with other humans, you know, other people.
Regardless.
Yeah, regardless of your achievements, regardless of your social status, they're everybody are the same. No one's better than anybody else, you know.
Got it. So if you are my boss, I can approach you and tell you, listen, I disagree with what you do, and whatever that is not probably the right approach. Can I do that?
Well, I
Or
think that also
the
depends
boss
on
is
the
always
person.
right?
I think that also depends on the personality of the boss. However, from my experience, I have never had problems. Of course, you always have to be diplomatic and, you know, be careful
Sure.
of how you express yourself, because you shouldn't also make people feel bad about themselves, right?
Yes.
So you have to be tactical and diplomatic. I
Yeah.
personally have never had problems. I have had conversation with, you know, previous bosses of mine where I'm like, okay, that's not working for me, for example, and then we
Uh-huh.
figure something out, right? So it's
Yeah.
a very it's a lot about collaboration. In Denmark, you work in teams, you work in a collective, you don't work alone. Like there's
Got it.
always people around you that you have to work with, and there I think it comes even more importantly this alone, because no one's better than anybody else, and that creates a very good, you know, feeling about yourself, like you know
Yes.
that you're just as good as the next person.
Yes, yes, that's extremely important.
Yeah,
Now let's talk about the social aspect. Here
yeah.
in the United States, we always read and see posts about Denmark as an example of the happiest place in the world. I mean, sometimes. So we want you to help us understand what does that mean. Well, it cannot be. I'm sure that not everyone is happy. But can you give us some? Can you put us some perspective on this line here that Denmark, or will I often read Denmark, sometimes Finland, the happiest place on earth. So why is that? Why is
It
that? Is
is.
it because of this law? Because of the lifestyle? Is there no stress? What is the role of government in your life?
All good questions. So so yes, it is true that Denmark hits the top rankings from like for happiness on a global level, and I think that's pretty impressive. I have been living here for 6 years, and well, it's really awesome. I mean, look, so for I come from a warm country, right? So for example, I miss the long summer. But if you think from economic perspective, from the perspective of what opportunities you can get and you can use, and what opportunities you are there are given to you so that you can go and do what you want to do and what feels okay, there's
Uh-huh.
so many opportunities, and I think that takes a lot of the stress factor of life generally away from you, right? Because
Uh-huh.
you know that if you ask for help, you will get that help. Okay, Denmark is extremely social country, extremely social. So the system is made in a way that it works for the regular person, right? It works for the citizens. It is also very transparent, and they have call centers.
Uh-huh.
I'm not like, you know, if I have a question, for example, about something related to, I don't know, tax, let's say, right? You can
Uh-huh.
call them and someone's gonna pick up and they're gonna walk you through the process of whatever you need to do so everything's okay with your tax. right?
Uh-huh.
And I think that's very amazing, because it takes so much pressure away, because like government is not in your face, you know, like it, it doesn't make your life more difficult. It makes your life easier through the system they have built. And I think that's very impressive, because that allows you to explore other sides of your life, right? If you're not worrying about, oh, did the tax right, because that doesn't take space in your head, right? You can focus on other things that you need to think about. And over time, you know, through your lifetime, I think that that's just a very big relief it gives you, the fact that the system is made to help you, and it's also made very user friendly. And I think it makes a very, very big difference in even everyday life.
So, going back to what you mentioned, obviously, the government is working for you as far as taxes. How much taxes do people pay?
Half of what you earn, I mean, more
Okay,
or
is
less.
that half of what you earn? So, is that something that people are happy about? I mean, they're willing to give half of their salary for the lifestyle and the
Don't
comfort.
mind. No,
So
okay,
you
but
don't
I'll
mind?
explain why. Okay, so I will
Yeah,
explain why, but I want to make it clear that that's my personal thinking process,
yes,
because I
yeah, of
come from,
course.
you know, because I'm looking at through my background and experiences from my home country, and then, you know, like that's my prism. So someone might have a different opinion, so I just want to make clear that's my view on it.
Yes, of course.
So the the thing in Denmark is that so the system is, you have to pay basically half of your income to tax,
Uh-huh.
and that
Uh-huh.
percentage changes depending like what's your status, you know. Are you unemployed, are you employed, are you self-employed, are you married to someone who has a business, you know, there are a lot of things that you
A lot
need
of
to,
factors.
yeah,
There.
factors that stir the direction.
Yeah.
However, uh, it is very nice, because even that you get the salary and you see half of your salary only in your bank account, right?
Uh-huh.
But this half that you have, it's more than enough for you to live calmly and normally. It's more than enough for you to pay your bills, you know, like to buy food, to maybe get like a top or two, you know, like through the month, like just the basic stuff that you would need to have a like a calm life and still experience some kind of, you know, adventure and luxury in it. You can do it on the half of your get. And I think that that makes you know, the resistance towards like the higher tax percent less, because you don't sacrifice some part of your life in order to pay your tax. Do you know what I mean?
I understand. I understand. I mean, every system is different, but if the Danish people are happy with that and they're in agreement, hey, if it's working in their favor, we cannot object to it, and we cannot say anything. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. And if they're achieving happiness, they achieving they're pursuing their life goals. That's all it matters.
Yeah,
It maybe will not fly that well here in the United States because it's just different system.
that's true. Also, I want to say that maybe another factor of, you know, people not minding paying so much tax is that
Yeah.
you can feel in your daily life that the the money you've paid, it kind of benefits your life, you know, like like the health system is free. I mean, it's not free because you prepay for it, right? I don't like when people say something's free just because you don't pay for it right there and then, like
So
you already
you're
paid for it,
saying,
right?
yeah. Uh-huh.
But you know, it's free. You can just go to the doctor, they'll examine you and they'll do, you know, what they have to do. Sometimes you'll get a medical bill if something's complicated. However, a big part of your expenses as a patient will be covered from, you know, your social your health insurance, or
Uh-huh.
yeah, your social security. I don't know what's called in America exactly. But
Yeah.
um also you can see education is free in Denmark.
Uh-huh.
So you
And
can go to
up to
university,
what grade? Up to what grade?
all of it.
All of it, even
I think
university?
so. I mean, I don't have kids, but and okay, now you made me think. No, I don't think that you pay for your kids to go to school when they're in high school or something. Maybe you have to pay for books or something, but I don't think there's a tax, but I'm not sure about that. I went to
Okay.
university and the
Did you
university is
have to
free.
pay?
The only expense you have from the university is you have to get books and you have to find where to live.
Okay, so you are, as a Bulgarian, is treated the same way as a Danish person as far as education, higher education goes.
Yeah.
You pay the same thing. There's no difference.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's
but
very good.
the rules change depending on how where you come from. For example, the citizens of Europe have, one set of rules they have to follow. For example, citizens from America will have something slightly different that, needs to be
Yeah.
adapted. People from other countries that are on different continents might also need to do something slightly different. So
Uh-huh.
there is a variety of rules,
Okay.
but it's made
Okay.
to work for everybody.
Okay. And let's say, for example, I am going visiting Denmark. How long am I allowed to stay in the country before I can, before they ask me to leave? If you don't know, it's
I
okay.
don't know because I think Americans need visa, but I also know that I know that also like Danish people don't necessarily need a visa to go to America because there's some kind of collaboration between the
Yes.
countries. So I
Uh-huh.
guess it goes both ways. So I would think that that's different for the different countries depending on where you come from.
But obviously, if you're planning to stay longer, you will have to obviously be legal and
Yeah,
you
of course, of
cannot be
course.
there for a long time without visas or any permits.
Yeah. I mean, of course, if you have to stay longer than the designated tourist
Uh-huh.
visitation time,
Uh-huh.
then you
Yeah.
need to have a reason why you're staying.
Got it. Got it. Now, let me ask you this. If I get into conflict with a Danish person over communication, over whatever, what's the best way to handle it?
That depends if this person, for example, is a team member and you have a boss. So if that's the case, you need to take it through the boss because the
Ah,
boss, like one of the things that the boss does is to handle conflicts and to help find resolutions so that everybody are happy, right? It's not very popular. People are not just gonna come in your face when they have a problem and just tell you you suck.
ah,
That's not gonna happen. They'll be much more diplomatic. And as I said, especially if you work in a company and in a team, I think it's, from my experience, it's much more likely that the person who had an issue will first talk to the boss and let them know that something's happening, and then the boss will probably facilitate or be a mediator in this meeting so that things can get cleared out.
that's quite interesting. It's basically a culture. It has a lot of similarities um, between what you've been describing and the collectivist cultures. I mean, I can be. They're not very direct. Yeah, they will tell you diplomatically, but they avoid that confrontation. Like here in the United States, for example, if I have an issue with somebody, I will just call them up. I don't have to go through a boss or whatever. I call them up and state my concerns, state what is it that I'm not happy about, and find ways to work it out among ourselves. So you're saying that does not happen in Denmark. They have to go through a medium, which obviously in the workplace, it will be boss, lead, supervisor, whoever. Now, what happens with the regular personal interaction? If I have a conflict with somebody, how would we handle it?
You mean personally with someone
Yeah,
from outside of work?
yeah, outside of work.
Well, I think that's a little tricky because it depends what's your level of relationship, right? I mean, it will be
Okay.
different from a friendship, it will be different from an intimate relationship. However, I
They're not comfort. Okay, they're not confrontational. Is that
Yeah,
what
they're
it
not
is?
confrontational with the purpose of just being your face and, make you feel bad about something. From my experience interacting with Danish people professionally and, in my personal life, I would say that, as I said in the beginning, they are very respectful. They can be straightforward. However, there's a place and time for that. Like, for example,
Okay.
if you work together, they're not going to do that at work, but maybe if you're in private, they'll tell you exactly what's bothering them. However, again, the experience I've had with Danish people is, regardless of what level of communication it was,
Uh-huh.
it
Uh-huh.
has it has always drifted around, being more diplomatic and respectful, and not just being like, oh, just yelling, and be, yeah, how to say, obnoxious, maybe. You
Yeah.
know,
So so you're telling me that we shouldn't expect yelling when we go to Denmark.
no, I actually think that I think I've heard very, very few Danes to yell. That's not something they do. I mean, they're very calm people. Like, when you were telling me, like, the girl that works with you, like, she's Danish, and you don't know, if she's positive or negative, just because, there's like this poker face, right? And that's normal. Like, that's a normal thing in Denmark. But I honestly prefer to look at it as peaceful, because it just seems like so peaceful, like, they'll just hear you out and let you, finish what you have to say, not, I don't
They
know,
won't
just I
interrupt.
honestly find
Yes.
it refreshing, just like calm, collected, hear what the person has to say, you don't need to express anything, then after that, engage in whatever way you want. I find this very nice, to be honest. They
Yes.
just look
Yes. I can.
calm and centered all the time.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. I mean, if you are in let's say a gathering and there are several people sitting in the same room, you're not going to expect everybody's talking at the same time, right? You will have, let's say you are 10 in the room, obviously one will speak and the rest will listen until they finish. It's not like a pocket conversation here and here. Everybody's talking at the same time. And at the end of the gathering, you're coming out and said, I haven't learned anything from this meeting because everybody was talking at the same time. I quite understand what you're saying. Now, I had something in mind that I wanted to ask. Um, is it easy to approach Danish people and build relationship with them?
You're asking me all these, like, tricky questions.
Well, no, I
um
mean,
No, I mean,
I,
they're tricky from the perspective that I always think that we should always remember to take the human factor, right? Like, different
yes,
personalities, different attitudes, and so on. So I would say that,
in general,
look, Danish, they're not judgmental, and I mean, they're not gonna disregard you, most of them, because you're a foreigner or anything. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with it. However, I do think that, with time, um, maybe it's more popular here that you kind of like develop, like a friendship group through your, let's say, your 20s, right? Or, like, end of high school 20s, and then you keep developing these relationships until at some point they're like solid, right? And a lot of people from Denmark tend to hang out with the friends they've had for like years and years and years on end. So from that perspective, not necessarily everybody is looking for a friend. However, you can make many meaningful connections with a lot of people, and it just takes time. Like, for example, in Bulgaria, from my culture, we are much more open to friendships. Like, I just met you, let's like spend some time together and we can be friends in a week. That's just an example, that's just an
yeah,
abstract
yeah,
example.
uh-huh.
However, I would say that in Denmark things don't work that direct necessarily. So there is, I would say from my experience, that there is more need to like nurture the relationship a bit, kind of like prove yourself that you deserve to be a friend,
Sure,
like
yes,
prove yourself that you are, how to say, you're a good fit for the group of people that you're going for, and I think that generally that's a good advice for any kind of culture, any kind of relationship, just give and then receive, right?
yes. It's more of a long-term thing.
Yeah.
Take your time to get to know the person. If you are trying to do business with them, it's not a type of culture that is what we call here short term. In other words, you have to build relationship. You have to nurture that relationship for you to earn the respect, to earn the business, and continue on doing business with them. Is that what it is?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna. You're gonna tell me this is tricky question again, but it just
I don't know, try asking me.
just answer it to the best of your ability.
That's what I'm doing.
Wait, just this is a pen, right? This is a pen. And here in the U.S., a lot of times when you go and apply for sales position, they will tell you, "Sell me this pen." Now, what's the best way to sell this pen to a Danish? What I use to sell this pen to Danish?
Why would you sell a pen? Everything is digital.
No. Just say, let's, for example, forget about your age. Now I am talking to.
No, I mean in Denmark everything is digital. They're even
Everything is
discussing from like I think 1 or 2 years to just have only digital money altogether. I mean everything is digital here.
Is it a cashless society in Denmark now? Or
Pretty much. I mean,
pretty much?
yeah. I mean, you can still use cash if you want to, but most people, the majority of people pay with their cards or, mobile pay. There's this app that's called mobile pay. You can just transfer money from phone number.
Yeah, but again, forget about the pen. This is an item that I'm selling. What will be the approach?
I think the approach would be to explain how would it better their lives.
Got it. Give them the value.
Yeah, I would say that value is more important. Like, fluffy conversations that you're just filling up space without even giving a lot of information. I don't think that's gonna fly in Denmark. You have to be, you have to be on point. You have to speak with purpose, not just speak.
Okay. I know that if you are in, let's say, for example, if you are invited to dinner, business dinner, let's say, or lunch, whatever, and you are eating, I know, and it happened to me before. You don't talk about business during a meal. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you are speaking, just like you said, don't fill up space just with whatever. Be purposeful in your discussion and why you're carrying that discussion. Okay, I've learned a lot today, and yes.
I have a tip. Wait, first of all, one thing I have to mention because it's a must, and a second thing just to go to the table manners, right? So I actually I didn't know some things, and my boyfriend had to teach me when we were visiting his family. They'll have like these family gatherings. Like, for example, when you're sitting with people on the table, if you need something and it's out of your reach in a way that you have to like stretch over the other person, you don't do that. You ask that someone gives it to you.
So you don't stretch to the other.
Don't stretch. Unless it's like easy to reach in front of you, around you, then you can do it, right? But if it's like you have to stretch through another person, you don't do that.
What else can we learn about etiquettes?
Okay, so here is very popular to, like, when you have a gathering, there's, they've made a lot of things that you have to put on your plate. And what I have noticed from my boyfriend's family, there's always rotation. So for example, nothing will almost nothing will stay like on the table and you eat around it. There's like a flow, right? So for example, first goes the potatoes, you pass them along, then comes something else, then you pass it along. There's like this. I actually think that it's a very nice sociable moment because you need to communicate, like, here you go, do you want that, do you need that? And I think there are a lot of small things in Danish culture that actually make it very friendly, like very, very friendly.
Oh, that's very nice. So I would say go beyond the facade of what you see. Postures, calm, sometimes can be cold people. Go beyond that and get to know them.
Exactly. Being like appearing cold, as you say, or not necessarily exploding with facial expressions to whatever a person's saying, that just look beyond it. That's
Okay.
just something that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to listen to you, or they're not welcoming to what you have to say. Not at all. It's
Uh-huh.
just like body language, you can never make a conclusion basing like one feature. You have to make like a group of three or more to be able to conclude what's actually happening. And I think it's the same with culture.
Oh, that's so nice. I mean, I've enjoyed our conversation. I'm sure that our listeners, maybe last thing, what virtues do Danish people value in a nutshell?
Elaborate a bit on that question.
Like, I know that you have to be honest. They will honor honesty. They will honor.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, honesty. Yeah, definitely. Be honest, be diplomatic, be respectful in your communication. Um, so I'm gonna slide in here what I wanted to say before.
yeah,
Punctuality.
got it.
It's
Okay,
very
don't be
important
late.
to be on time. Like, very important to be on time. If you're not going to be on time, you have to call in advance and tell them you're not going to be on time. And you have to kind of like add a little explanation of why. Like, that's
Uh-huh.
actually something that's kind of, um, I didn't know that. My boyfriend told me that. He was like, you have to add why, like some short explanation to like why you're late. There needs to be a condition to it. So I think it's okay to be late, like some things happen and it's out of your control, but you always have to warn them in good time and tell them, I'm sorry, like this and this happened, I'm not going to be on time, I'm going to be a little late, and blah blah. And also do it in a respectful way. Like, don't treat people like they have to sit and wait for you because it's you. Back to
Yeah,
Yent alone and equality, that's not going to fly.
yeah.
Arrogance, it doesn't go a long way in Denmark.
So I remember you had mentioned before that you can lose a job opportunity or you can be disregarded
Yeah.
if you are late. I mean,
Yeah.
that
if
easy.
if you are late and you didn't bother to let the other people know what's happening,
Got it.
if you're late and you let them know what's happening, they'll be much more understanding. Danish people are very understanding. Like, as long as like you openly explain what is it, and just
Yes.
be open about it, they're very understanding.
So if you're invited, like if you're invited to a wedding, you're invited to a party or anything, make sure that you show up on time.
Yes, yes. Like, where wouldn't you? I think the only people who are allowed to be late for a wedding are the groom and the bride. Like everybody else have to be there in advance.
Okay. Any closing statements, anything else that you can add that may be of help or value to the listener if they are looking to do
Yeah.
business with Danish or Bulgarian, either or.
I would like to say a few words about the general change of environment.
Okay.
Um, as I said, I left everything behind, friends, family. I didn't know any single person when I came to Denmark. I had to meet people and literally build all my relationships from the beginning, right? And it's scary. It's I understand how intimidating it is. And I just want to say that never let fear rule you, because there's so many great things that you can achieve just because you're afraid. But if something feels right within you, like your gut tells you that that's the choice for you, just go for it and give yourself the chance and the opportunity to achieve what you want to achieve. And it is very intimidating to change environment, because it's not only the people that change, it's also your immediate contacts, it's the environment, it's the culture, it's the food, it's different, and all of that can be very intimidating in the beginning. But it's okay, because if you put efforts and you really want to make it in the new environment, it's gonna be great. Like, people are more understanding than we tend to give them credit for, I think.
Got it. Got it. just the emphasis here is respect. Do your best. Try to get to know people, and don't discredit them just because of your perception, your prejudice that you already have built up, and just do what's right, right?
Exactly.
Just like an inside. Well, I definitely definitely have enjoyed. My gosh, we've been talking for an hour. We gotta go for an hour.
Wow, okay.
It's been so nice having you, Greta, and I wish you the best, and I wish you success in whatever you're trying to do with your endeavor. I know you're a coach, and a coach. Not. I mean, people have to understand that you're a coach in a different culture than yours, which is obviously interesting, challenging, and like you said, uh, get rid of the fear, and just go full force. That's what she said. In any other society, and just do your best to integrate within that society, regardless of the difference that you have, or the difference that is between your motherland and the new environment. um, I hope we can have this discussion again.
Yeah, I think we have to have a sequel of this
and,
podcast.
and definitely, Denmark is now, you made it a must visit place
Yeah, but when it's safe to travel.
when it's safe to travel. I know that Denmark was one of the few people that had a full lockdown.
Oh
They
yeah,
did.
we were among the first countries that closed down, and we were among
Oh,
the first countries to open up again.
oh wow. Okay. So everything's back to normal or not
No,
really?
I mean, I don't think it can be really back to normal because we are in this very unprecedented situation. However, I think that people are very respectful of, the rules and regulations we have to follow in order to protect ourselves and, the people around us. Um, I think it's okay. But I also think, I mean, the COVID situation is also a totally different topic because it's just
Yeah,
different on
yeah,
so many levels. But
yeah.
things are
True.
okay in Denmark. I mean, from my immediate observations, I don't have an observation of how many people are sick.
Okay.
Um,
As far as the economy, has it been affected badly like
yeah, of
other
course.
countries?
I mean,
Yes. Like,
I don't know how
right.
badly it has been affected, but it has been affected. The government has released programs for support of small businesses, and generally businesses that, for example, just they literally cannot really do anything while people are stuck at home, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
there has been a lot of focus on how to help people and not just let them sink and their life work just sink because of the current situation. As I
Okay.
said, the Danish system is always aiming to help the citizens, and I
This
think that's really, really fascinating.
last question: are the borders open back up yet, or no one can travel to Denmark?
Okay, so there has been a little change of situation since last week because we had uh, now we have to wear masks in public spaces and in restaurants and and on the public transportation and everywhere that's in
Yeah,
confined space.
yeah.
Um,
No, I mean the people can travel to
you
Denmark and
can.
outside of Denmark.
So the last thing that I know is that the borders were open to specific cases. Like, for example,
Got it.
you can come for a limited time if you had to work, in the
Yes,
country.
yes. Okay.
You can come if you have family. Um,
Uh-huh.
I think that honestly, I cannot really give you like a fresh overview because things change so fast because the whole situation around the pandemic changes so fast. So it like day to day rules are changed all
Yes,
around the
yes,
world. But
yes, yes.
yeah,
Well, well, I wish you the best. Again, I enjoyed our conversation. Truly, I enjoyed our conversation. And if I go and visit Denmark, you are going to be the first one to know.
yes, and I'm gonna take you to so many good places. You have no idea.
What city? Where city are you
I'm based in a
residing at?
city that's called Joring. It's on the north side of Denmark. It's on the side that's attached to the rest of Europe.
Got it. Now, say in Danish, say has been nice talking to you or whatever. Have a great day. Say it in Danish.
Det var en rigtig god oplevelse at snakke sammen med dig i dag, og det var en rigtig stor mulighed for mig at sige, hvad jeg mener, og jeg glæder at have dig i mit netværk, og jeg glæder, at jeg har snakket med dig. Ha'
Okay.
en fantastic day.
Very good, very good.
What I said, do you want me to translate it?
And I'm sure you said something good, but go ahead.
I said that I have enjoyed our conversation very, very much, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had to speak with you and to be here with you and to say what's on my mind. And I really wishing you a very, very fantastic day.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Peace.
Peace.
And see you soon. Let's connect the world, and let's hope that we make an impact in our world by getting people closer to know each other, to know about each other. At the end of the day, we all the same. We're coming from the same origin, and there are no differences. The only thing that is required from us is to understand with an open mind and open heart. So have a great day, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.